Yeah, 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 yeah. Yo, welcome back to another edition of the Men Who Cry podcast. Like, subscribe, review, tell a friend, tell a friend, tell a friend, tell a friend, to tell a friend. If you not do these things, I have to assume that you have the second highest payroll in baseball and missed the playoffs. Shout out to the New York Mets. On today's episode, we will be talking about the Ravens looking sickly, who will be performing at the Super Bowl halftime show for 2026. And we have our number 8 spot for the butterfly moments of the last 25 seasons. But first, we're going to do two things on this pod that I never thought that we would do. I'm going to get to the second one later. The first one is talking about golf. For those who don't know, the Ryder Cup took place over the weekend. Yes, this took place in Bethpage Black, with the European team coming out as victors over the American team. Now, I'm going to keep the stack with you guys. I know very little to anything about golf. If Tiger wasn't playing, I wasn't watching. But one thing I love to do is talk about here is heckling and Long Island. So, if you guys don't know, I'll explain a little bit of the backdrop. The European team, headed by Rory McIlroy and Shane Lowry, were verbally abused throughout the course in Farmingdale, Long Island. We'll get to Farmingdale in a second. For those who don't know, Farmingdale, like I said, is in Long Island. There were things said that I cannot repeat that was said. Allegedly, Rory's wife was hit with a bottle or something, some type of drink. And both Rory and Shane, after the match, called out the fans, called out the president of the United States, and basically rubbed their faces in it. All right. So, for those of you who don't know, I grew up in Long Island. Not this part of Long Island. I grew up in this town called Valley Stream, New York. And Long Island's a very interesting kind of location itself. First of all, it's massive. Okay. Long Island's probably got maybe about 3 to 4 million people on the actual island, but it's split into two parts. There's Nassau County and there's Suffolk County, right? Like I said, where I was at was very much like close to Queens. For most people who know me or I talk to them, I kind of tell them that I live in Queens because like I can kind of walk there. But Nassau County is the side that's probably the closest to Manhattan. And if you get to Suffolk County, you're going further out. Think of like the Hamptons and things of like that, right? I know which side I like to stay on when I go out to Long Island. And there's certain sides I just don't like to rock with or try to go on that side, right? Farmingdale, I'm 99% sure is technically in Nassau, but it's kind of a little bit on the borderline of like where that Nassau, Suffolk County kind of line would be, right? And the second thing that I'm going to do that I never thought in my history of life that I would ever do, I'm going to defend the MAGAs. Now, I am not part of that side, nor will I ever be. However, I think the thing that's getting lost in all this is what happened over the weekend was the introduction to golf to every other sport that we play here in America. What do I mean by that? I do not think that anything said to Rory or Shane or any of the other players was anything worse that's said to 18-year-olds on Saturday in college football. To the NBA players playing in the league. Heck, the pro football team of your team, right? Heckling, shouting, and being a drunken idiot is just kind of part of what it is to be a guy, right? Not saying I condone it, but it kind of is what it is when it comes to that culture. The difference here is just that golf has never really experienced, I would say, this type of heckling. There's always this little bit of a code for golf. Don't yell on someone's backswing. You try to kind of don't really trying to cheer a lot. And a lot of those rules were kind of thrown out the window, right? But what I have to say here, and this is honestly a credit to Rory specifically and Shane, is give that energy right back. Okay. I understand that there are things that might have been said there across the line. Like, I don't know exactly what was said, but at the end of the day, you out there on the greens and you got to make the shots, which they did. And they gave it right back to those guys who were talking all that crap, right? Now, let's not try to pretend that this is like Tommy Smith and John Lewis from the 1968 Olympics where there was like real issues that they were dealing with. These are two guys that are just getting a lot of crap from fans on the sideline. And I think it speaks to the fact that these guys were able to overcome this and, frankly, get me to care and talk to you guys about the Ryder Cup. I think that this was a big moment for European golf and just golf in general. What I'm reading this is the first time that one of the road teams has won. They play this, I believe, every year, or every 4 years, rather. The road team, quote unquote, in this instance, hadn't won this course or won this kind of match since 2012. It's been a long time, right? They've kind of alternate home and home and home. And maybe this now brings up like a real true rivalry and gets casuals like me to watch, right? Because now I'm pretty sure they got to go to Europe next time they get this thing together. And let's see how it goes, right? And let's see how it gets cracking. So Ryder Cup brought in a level of the essence of American sports in a way that I didn't think was truly possible. But shout out to Rory and Shane on their victory for that. Switching over to the sport that we all probably watch every Sunday, more or less, NFL, right? Only going to really talk about the one game for the week, and that is the Baltimore Ravens versus the Chiefs. The Chiefs look like, I'm not going to say they got all the way right, but I was never really panicked about them. They kind of did to Baltimore what pretty much every team outside the Browns has done to Baltimore this year, and that's whatever they want on offense, right? The Chiefs' offense looked way better than it had at any point in the season. I'm not fully convinced that they are back yet, but they have that dude who is still that dude, and anytime you have him on the court or on the field, you got a chance to win the whole damn thing. For the Ravens, first off, I'm going to say is I do not like to speculate on players' injuries. You never really know what guys are feeling, what guys are dealing with, what they're taking before games, at halftime. Excuse me. To get ready to play. There's no way you convince me that Lamar Jackson got hurt in that game. I don't know what play, what sequence, what event. That looked like a guy who was just frustrated that his team was getting smacked, and they took him out the game because they weren't going to win the game. Now, I think the Ravens have real problems, right? Their defense has been bad all year, even when they have their guys healthy. Now, they're going to be missing a couple of guys for the next couple of weeks. We'll see if Lamar's hamstring will allow him to play later on this week. But this is a team where the regular season for them did not matter as much. Hence why I am not super concerned as of yet, because have you seen their division? They get to play the Browns again. They still get to play the Steelers twice, and they get to play the Bengals twice. Those teams are not good, okay? So while they have eliminated themselves from being probably the number one seed because they lost to both Buffalo and to Kansas City. So now those things are done, and they're going to be better than whatever AFC South team comes out. So you expect their ceiling to be probably the 3 seed, and their floor to be one of the wild cards to get in, right? And I ultimately don't think adversity is the worst thing in the world for this team. You've seen for a long time, this team has just dominated the regular season, had great regular seasons, and get popped in the playoffs ever in the Lamar Jackson era. I think this kind of can be a good thing for them to kind of work their way out, fix some things, and try to get themselves in when they're kind of moving up this way. But let's make no mistake about it. If they do not make the Super Bowl, they need to fire the coach. Okay? John Harbaugh has been there since 2008. They're about to be kids going to college when he started coaching. Okay? I understand he has a Super Bowl ring. I understand they've made the playoffs year after year after year after year with him as a coach, especially in the Lamar Jackson kind of time. But you have had one of, if not the most talented roster in football for years. And you guys have underachieved pretty much every year since Lamar Jackson established himself as being an MVP caliber player. This is the point of time where it's put up or shut up, and it might be unfair because maybe the team's injuries are going to start catching up to them, and maybe they just don't have the horses, but they're not going to care because you had several other opportunities to make the Super Bowl, if not win the Super Bowl, in the last couple seasons. And every time you get to the moment, your team and your best player seems to get tight. I don't know why they get tight. But at the end of the day, sports are kind of simple. They either blame the players or they blame the coach. And the players are the ones making hundreds of $millions of dollars. So you're the one that's going to get the door. I still believe in them as a team. This was the team I had getting to the Super Bowl and winning the Super Bowl. And I kind of expected it to be some version of this, right? I think that them building up and not having such dominant runs is going to be helpful. Obviously, we need to make sure that Lamar is healthy. And if he is, still a team that I think can go far in the playoffs. But at some point, you have got to oddly relax and kind of just let it be. Right now, they're giving Lamar Jackson hell because they're comparing him to James Harden, who always got tight when the moment mattered the most. Why that was, we'll never know why that is. I don't know if it's a head thing. I don't know if you want it too much. But some guys just never seem to live up to the moment. But there's other guys who overcome it, right? An example is LeBron. LeBron was struggling mightily. Get to the finals, played Dallas. He just kept losing in the quote-unquote big spot until he finally was able to overachieve it. And he realized that, okay, there's nothing higher than this. I don't have to feel any more pressure on myself. I've already lived up to the moment. And I've seized the moment. And I captured it. Will that eventually be Lamar's story? Or will he just go by the way of James Harden, which is an all-time great regular season player who, when the playoffs come, fall apart. And not just he falls apart, the team falls apart, right? It is a fascinating time for them going forward. It's still September. It'll be October fairly soon. There's still time for them to go, but this is kind of the put up or shut up time. And the team that hopefully, if I'm right, the Ravens will be there, we'll be able to see maybe a couple minutes of the Bad Bunny show. Yes, Bad Bunny has been tapped to do the Super Bowl halftime show. This is the second time doing the Super Bowl halftime. If you don't remember, he was there with Shakira and Jennifer Lopez doing the halftime show in Miami, which is very good. I'm going to say this before we get into actual Bad Bunny. Shout out to Jay-Z. It's odd because I never thought in my life that would be a controversial thing to say, to shout out to Hove. But I remember the time when we was getting the Who. Y'all don't even know who the Who is as our halftime show. And that stuff was trash. Ain't nobody listening to those guys, okay? But in the last 10 years, since Rock Nation took this over, it's been bangers, okay? The only halftime show I would say I did not like since 2015, 2014 was probably, we all know which one is Maroon 5. I was like, why y'all here? You know what I'm saying? But we going from Lady Gaga, fire. Shakira and Jennifer Lopez, I just talked about, fire. Kendrick, that's the number one spot for me right now. And let's see if Bad Bunny can live up to that moment. But the thing about this is, even if you don't like Bad Bunny or even know his music, the fact of the matter is that guy is a superstar. It's funny enough, I was talking to my friend about this, and we were pining over who we thought were going to be Super Bowl halftime show people. We went back and forth. Obviously, Taylor Swift was the person that we picked. But then I thought at least, it was going to be Morgan Wallen. which I'm a little shocked that it wasn't him. And they went with Bad Bunny instead. I appreciate that for reasons. But I had figured that some version of Morgan or Post Malone would be the guy that they would want. And if you also look like there was a polygraph kind of thought or like kind of betting site to think that he was going to be the guy for the moment. Because frankly, we're getting to the point now where like we're kind of running out of superstars left to do this show because everyone's already done it. Because I can't think of so many other people who can do this show alone, right? Shakira and Jennifer Lopez, the only two, the most recent people that have done it combined outside of the Maroon 5, Travis Scott kind of little duet that took place. But it's hard to find people to do these things alone now, right? And the great thing about Bad Bunny is he showed you what it was. He did a residency in Puerto Rico, had people flying all over the world to come down to see his show and gave back to his community and his island. And while there are obviously several people who were upset, don't care, you're lying, you're going to watch. And frankly, the fact that he is a guy who I don't really need to know all the words that guy's saying, because he makes a vibe, okay? And that's all I really care about, okay? It is about the vibe and meeting the moment, right? Shout out to Bad Bunny. Shout out to everyone who loves Bad Bunny. I do not know what he is saying, mostly because my Spanish just ain't that good, but I know he be making them hits, and that's the thing I love, right? So we'll see how his show comes out. Shout out to him and everyone going out there to support him, all right? But finally, for you guys, we have the 8th moment of the last 25 years, the butterfly moments, all right? We are still doing this list. We're going to get through it, all right? We're in this journey together, okay? We're squarely in the top 10. This moment is shocking because of the ways that it went. I think it was going to go the other way. Number 8 on this list is the Paul George trade, the second Paul George trade, not the first one. Paul George getting traded from the Oklahoma City Thunder to the Los Angeles Clippers for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Danilo Gallinari, and 4 first-round picks. Why is this moment significant? Well, the Clippers somehow stay being the Clippers. This move got them not only Paul George, but it got them Kawhi Leonard. In the time that those guys were together, they made one Western Conference Finals. They missed the playoffs twice, and they lost Paul George last season. Whereas the Oklahoma City Thunder now have, I would say, the best case chance to become a dynasty after winning the NBA championship last season. I remember exactly when this took place because an earthquake took place. I was watching Knicks Pelicans. That was Zion's first game. Funny how things speak themselves into existence. Zion had a great first half and then got hurt. And then an earthquake happened. And then the next day you find out that Paul George and Kawhi Leonard are both going to the Los Angeles Clippers. The thing about the trade also is the fact that in the moment it made total sense. And frankly, Shai was kind of the throw-in in the trade, right? A lot of it was like, okay, you got this guy Shai. He seems like a good player. Maybe he develops into all-star. This guy might arguably be the best player in the NBA. And now the Clippers are, still fighting to make the playoffs. They're pretty much a solid playoff team. I don't necessarily think they're going to be like a team that gets to the finals because, again, James Harden not fall for the banana tailpipe anymore. Okay, it is what it is with him. And in the new CBA and how everything has changed and manifests itself, it is so hard. The NBA has made it a point to break up dynasties. They do not want big threes, right? They have told you this in as many ways as possible. And yet the Thunder have somehow found a way to draft and trade for the 3 best players on their team. They just paid all those guys. And it'll be interesting to see how this goes forward. I am not picking them to win the championship this year, full disclosure, because I still believe we're in the time of parity. And I'm going to need to see another team go on the run that the Warriors had, or the Heat had, or LeBron with the Cavs, if you just want to say getting to the finals multiple times, even though that was not considered a dynasty. I'm going to need to see it before I'm ready to crown these guys a dynasty. But like I said before, there's no other team that has the best chance at this type of dynasty outside of the Oklahoma City Thunder. So number 8 on the list, we have the Oklahoma City Thunder getting Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. All right. That's the whole time we have for you guys. Thank you guys again for listening to the Men Who Cry podcast. Like I said, like, subscribe, review, tell a friend, tell a friend, tell a friend, and tell a friend. I'll be back talking to you guys a little bit more later in the week. All right. Peace out.